Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Sorry, it took a little while here to go live. Had to get the family all ready. They're all out doing some things real quick, so had to make sure little guy was all ready to go. How is everybody doing today? Man, it's just funny to see these dudes scrambling and then watching this in the background here. We're gonna get into a whole bunch of stuff. I also found another thing here. They're called, we'll get into it in a second here, but it's just funny. They always try, when they sit there and give these guys regulations, they always turn it into it's the same exact thing, but then they find a way to be like, well, now we're a firm inside of a firm, so it gets different regulations and rules. I always clowner shit with these guys, but let's get into the video here real quick. We got enough people in here. So first thing I wanted to talk about, a lot of people ask me, I get a lot of DMs about We the Investor, and does it actually do anything? Does it have an impact? Have they done anything? And should we even care? And the only reason, like I said, I do highly recommend people, check out We the Investor, look at what they're getting into, look at the comments on the rules and regulations they're getting into and involved. They actually get a hold of the s.e.c. But here's one of the newest, rules that they were talking about, and you can go on here and check everything, but talks about over 3,000 comments from individual investors. 98% of them use the template for We the Investor. So as you can see, We the Investor is a large portion of retail's voice. Now, the reason why I push it, and a lot of people, hey, it's not going to matter that much. We're not going to have that much of an impact. But here's the thing. You got to start somewhere in this corruption to where we need a seat at the table. We the Investor actually gets a seat at the table. And they talk with the s.e.c. They can show them certain rules. So I always recommend to, watch what rules they're talking about, things that can change, put their comments on it. Dave Lauer is one of the head of We the Investors. But like I said, we might not be the biggest voice in the room, but at least we're in the room. At least we have a voice in the room. So We the Investor, like I said, guys, we need to use our voice as much as we can on all of these rules. So I'm going to go ahead and keep pushing We the Investor. Dave Lauer, check it out. Like I said, it's a great thing for retail. As you can see, if we don't do this, the remaining comments were trade associations, financial service firms, institutional investment managers, broker-dealers. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to say, they're going to do what they always do. They're going to tell us what's in our best interest because we're not in the room to say anything otherwise. So like I said, guys, check them out. Check out the rules we're looking into. But let's get into this video because there's a whole bunch of things that are going on right now. And when I saw this headline the other day, I was laughing pretty hard because it's like, when these guys are fucked because they're U.S. bank CEOs are expected to protest regulations pushed before Congress. So these guys are basically coming out, and the end game rules are coming out, which we'll get into those in a minute here. I'll just so you guys know what we're talking about. This is the end game rules right here. I'm going to go ahead and send this into the chat quick so everybody can actually go ahead and read these. These are banking capital requirements. These are set to take place very soon, and they're basically fighting it all because it's transparency, it's more margin requirements, it's more capital requirements, it's a whole bunch of rules that would fuck these guys up. So now they're basically trying to come in and be like, whoa, we need a hearing. We can't do this. Well, the top bosses of JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and other major banks, they want them to basically shelf the new regulations because they're saying they're going to hurt economy and hurt everything, and they're going to hurt the banking system and the sector. And well, yeah, because all you guys are fucking pieces of shit, over leveraged garbage, and you're hiding stuff. And the second more and more comes to light, and on top of that, none of you guys have margin, or you guys have no collateral. Like I said, collateral is drying up. So if you come over here, we look a little bit more. Talks about this comes on the base and or the end game, base 1, base 2, and base 3 proposals. This basically overhauls the new rules. It makes it so, like I said, they have to have new caps. They have new collateral requirements, a whole bunch of new transparency rules, a whole bunch of things that these guys don't want to have happen. So if you actually come down here and look at what it does, according to the proposal, it's going to improve the consistency of capital requirements across banks, better match capital requirements to risk. So basically, it's going to make sure that, this requirement is good for this risk instead of these banks saying, we'll just take this. We got to make sure that there's a proper amount of collateral for the risk of this thing. So obviously, banks really don't want to do that. It improves transparency of banks, financial conditions for supervisors, and it also improves things for the public. So of course, they're fighting this now, tooth to nail, crying about it, because who does it affect? It affects all the big boys, all the other banks with 100 billion in assets. They now need to be required to do risk-weighted, control, compared to right now. It's them just basically willy-nilly. They're saying yes to fucking everything. I already showed you how over-leveraged they are with the exposures in the derivatives market of over 810 billion in exposure. Basically, they're like, you guys are fucking going rampant. You guys don't have the capital. You guys don't have all this stuff. You're no longer sitting here helping us out in the back end with the repos so we can keep making money in the overnight index funds. So there's a lot of stuff going on over here. And like I said, these guys they're fighting it. They're going to protest regulations, and they need to go ahead. They need this congressional hearing because they're fucking douchebags. And this stuff is going to be the end of them. They cannot sit there. And I know a lot of people sit there and go, oh man, they'll hide this forever. They'll pay hot potato forever. But we'll get into a lot of this more down in a second. But these hot potatoes, these potatoes are growing to the size of fucking watermelons. And I mean, you can only carry so many watermelons at a time. These potatoes are growing and growing and growing by the second. This comes on, what they were talking about is this comes because of Silicon Valley. They want to do this because of all of these banks. They didn't have the capital requirements. They don't want bank runs. They're trying to prevent another crisis, but it's not going to, there's no way to prevent these crises from happening. They can go ahead and tell these banks they need to have more money on hand. But the problem is that these banks have more money on hand. They're going to make less capital. There's no winning in the end game for the banks. They're going to obviously last for a while. They're still going to be necessary. But like I said, over the next couple of years, they're going to be less and less and less necessary. Eventually, you're going to have a lot of these other places you can move your money to, be able to use them instead of a bank to make payments as well. I can't say that. That's typically financial. Never mind, I'm not going to say this. It might be financial advice. I don't want to tell some people what they can do there instead of use a bank. But there are options out there, and they're growing by the minute. Let's just say that. They're growing by the minute instead of using a bank. They're getting more and more and more and more attractive. There's zero reason to be in a bank. Like I say, every single time, these banks take your money, then they use your money, which we're going to get into in a second here, because I'm going to show you. We'll get into it in a second here. But they take your money, they use it against you in the stock market to fuck your investments on what is supposed to be your retirement anyway. So why in the hell? And then they rehypothecate it, promise it to 10,000 different people, and suddenly they need to bail out. And again, it fucks you over as a taxpayer. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But they're trying to fight this shit tooth and nail right now. And anytime you see these guys, what the hell? I hate when it does these stupid login things. Anytime you see these groups, the Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citigroup, JP Morgan, who are those guys? It's all the most over-fucking leveraged people in the whole thing. It's all I showed you. They're the top 5 people in derivatives. So the top 5 people in derivatives don't want fucking more, they don't want more transparency. Crazy. They don't want to have more requirements on holding collateral, and because remember when COVID came, they reduced the reserve limit to 0%. Now they want these guys to have to go back and actually have a higher percent in their reserves. So they're like, fuck that, we can't do that. That's less money we're gonna make, and we're already struggling. See, all of these guys. Oh, and this is the other thing it wanted to do. One second. I forgot almost the capital requirements. Unrealized. So, hold on, where is it? Here it is right there. Hold on, I just fucking saw it. Of course. Okay, so this would also talk about how they need to now include unrealized capital gains, unrealized losses on certain securities in their capital investments. Because what they were saying is these capital unrealized capital losses were a huge thing to Silicon Valley. There's a lot more reporting on these fucking guys that they're not doing right now. There's so much exposure we're going to get into in a second. It is so insane what is going on. Like, it gets so stupid. And then what these guys do is anytime there's a new rule, which we're going to get into in a second, they make it a new thing, like a family office. But we'll get into that in 1 second here. The next thing that I want to talk about for a second before we get into that, there's a massive risk going on here. And this could be another thing that could trigger a massive fall. We're going to go into a lot of things that could trigger a bubble, or trigger the spiral, or trigger the dominoes, because there's so many things coming out right now. So what this talks about is margin calls from clearinghouses. And it talks about how they could be the next thing potentially to spark the next crisis, because what's going on is they're talking about raising the margin requirements in these clearinghouses. So these guys are going to need to now put more collateral down before these clearinghouses will actually clear these trades. Now, I don't subscribe to this crap. I'm not going to do all that other stuff. But it talks about how central clearinghouses hold over 1 trillion liquid assets. Now, what they're doing is they talk about how they could be creating a margin spiral, and they could push asset prices down according to the Bank of Internal Settlements. Now, what this is talking about is it may lead to fire sales and cash in the derivatives market as investors dump assets to raise needed funds, because they need more funds to now meet the new collateral requirements on these clearinghouses. So they're talking about, you could see basically a pretty big sell-off now, because they're going to need more collateral, which could now trigger an additional amount of margin calls, and this could become through the clearinghouse, through all the clearinghouses. And we already saw how important they are when Robinhood shut the fucking buy button off because of clearinghouses. Right now they have $1 trillion in liquid assets, but they're saying that they need more money. So that should tell you something right there. If they have $1 trillion in liquid assets, and they're saying we need even more because the systematic risk is getting too big, we still need even more money and more collateral, that should tell you how out of control it's getting in the back end. None of these people have this. Now they're talking about, if they do increase this margin, if they do increase this collateral requirement, you could see a couple margin calls, and just it only takes 1 or 2 to set it off, especially if you're talking in the derivatives market. So this is another bubble, more pressure, another rule that's coming against these banks. Like I said, you got end game phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 coming down the pipe. You got these, like I said, if you want to check these out one more time, there is the link. You can go ahead and read about the end game, the new requirements. It breaks them completely down into everything. I just want to give you guys a quick, run through on that. But and now you got the clearinghouse bubbles. Now they're gonna have even more requirement. And this is the thing. This is what I wanted you guys to see. This is what we need. This is what we want to see. Them needing to come up with more collateral, their assets dropping in the back end, and more regulators saying, well, we need more. We need more. Hey, banks, we need more collateral. We need more collateral. Hey, clearinghouses, hey, we need more collateral. This is exactly what we need. Put pressure on these fucks. And that's exactly what we want. And then once that happens, credit dries up. They're no longer going to be lending to people. And then once that stops, they're going to stop lending to hedge funds and all of these other people. They're not going to be able to take on the risk, because they're going to need to be lending to people and using those deposits to back that risk. So if they have deposits leaving and they're not lending, they don't have collateral to continuously lend to hedge funds. Now, one of the next things I wanted to go over here, because it's another bubble, it's more bubbles, and it's these guys coming up with new family office types things. We're going to get into this now. It's like a new family office bullshit. It's, hey, you got these regulations. And if you ever watched the show Billions, I didn't understand what I was watching in the last season until I read this. And I was like, oh, what a fucking complete gong show of a joke. But if you watch the show Billions, and the last season, god damn it, I can't remember the main guys. The main guy who's going to be president, not Bobby Axelrod, the other guy. I can't remember his name for some reason off the top of my head. But the main character that ended up taking down Bobby, he ends up trying to go to run to president. So what he's doing is he actually ends up doing what they're called. Well, before we get into the name here. So what he ends up doing is he basically makes a mini firm within a firm. It's called a pod, okay? So pretty much these pod shops is what they're called. It's a complete fucking scam. It is a hedge fund within the hedge fund, within its best employees, but you can get around it because you're not necessarily investing in the hedge fund itself. You're investing in this pod. So if you watch the show Billions at the end, he has his two top employees, and he ends up giving them a set of rules. And he says, you got this amount, you can hire on your own staff, you're blah, 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 and you have to work into these commodities, these trades, okay? So before I get into this a little bit more, let's just read this article here for a second. Citadel and its peers are piling into the same trades. Regulators are taking notice. Now, there's another little bubble coming in on the end here, which we'll get into in a second, through these pod shops. There's only 55 of these pod shops, but again, you're going to see a domino effect because of how much money these pod shops are able to fucking raise. Now, it even talks about Ken Griffin in this article. Even Ken Griffin is a little worried. Now, if you come down here and read about these pod shops, now let me explain to you what they are. So, let's say I'm Ken Griffin, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and open up a little pod shop inside of my hedge fund. I take my best employees, okay? I'm going to take my best top employees, and I'm going to say, hey, you guys are going to be in this thing called a pod shop. I'm going to go ahead and now go to investors and say, banks. Now, see, before I get into this a little bit more, I want to show you why this is made. Then you'll understand why he's going to these and the investors and everything. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. Now, the reason that this happened, the reason they started getting, popping off. They started popping off. So there's this thing called the Wagner Rule, okay? Now, what this did is it prohibited banks from engaging in proprietary trading or investing in or sponsoring hedge funds or private equity funds. And what that means is basically the bank couldn't use its own money because think of how much access the bank has. It has insider information. So they're like, you can't use your own personal money to go ahead and invest in a hedge fund, okay? So they stopped that. They said banks can no longer take bank money, bank profit, and then go ahead and now invest that into a hedge fund because they have knowledge. Now, if you think about it, so how come that doesn't apply to Citadel? Well, Citadel just goes ahead and opens up a hedge fund, but we obviously see they have conflict of interest because we already have seen in multiple lawsuits and cases the fucking market maker has communication with the hedge fund. So what the fuck's the difference? It's just a gong show. So, in order to stop these banks from taking profits and putting it into hedge funds to make even more money, they made this rule. Well, to get around this rule, they made fucking pod shops. So, basically, they go, these shops suddenly found its roots and started popping on up the second that they implemented the Wagner Rule. Because this prohibits banks from putting their own money into hedge funds. So what they can do instead is put them into the fucking pod shop inside of the hedge fund. And I'm sitting here looking at myself like, what the fuck? So do they have to follow hedge fund regulations? Like, I'm trying to look into the pod shops more and be like, is this like family office where they got special exemptions? I'm trying to look more into this, but it's like, okay. So the problem with these pod shops. So now what you have, so now that you understand who's investing in these pod shops. So you have back to the Citadel story. So douchebag Ken Griffin opens up his little pod shop. And now he hires his best guys, okay? His best fucking guys, his best generators. He goes, your pod shop's going to have, let's just for the sake of example, 10 employees, okay? There's going to be 10 of you in this pod shop, and now all 10 of you are going to work for my hedge fund, but you're going to be in the special little cubicle of your pod shop, whatever you want to call it, and you 10 are only going to focus in certain aspects of the market, not the whole dynamic of the market itself. Just certain aspects. Now listen to this, okay? Because you got to understand this to see where this catastrophic problem's coming. So, if I'm in this pod shop, okay, as an employee, I'm sitting there, it's just like always, it's just like everything. I'm incentive to stay in this and stay in this pod shop. Okay, it's a special elite program. It's where all I'm getting paid special bonuses, dividends, special income, salary, everything. You want to stay in the pod shop at all costs, but you're only allowed to work in certain areas to the agreement. So you need to make your returns. So you're going to work in those areas, but you're going to take riskier bets in those areas to make sure you're going to generate profits, because you got to stay in the pod shop. Because if you as an employee suddenly have a down month, you're fired. Next guy's in. The next top earner's in. So now these guys are taking a little bit extra risk in these pod shops, because they got to make sure they're making a little extra money, because they cannot get fucking replaced. So what is happening? All of these pod shops are fucking investing in the Magnificent Seven. Everybody wonders, why can't the what is holding everything up? It's the Magnificent Seven. They're holding up all the fucking indexes. It's those 7 tech stocks and AI stocks. They're holding up fucking everything. They're holding up the market. And guess what these guys are all doing? They're all piling into the Magnificent Seven. All of them. All of them. They're all in there. They're all fucking in there, and they're all just popping it in there, popping it in there. Everybody, houses keep going up. These fuckers are taking their bank money, the bank profits, and putting them in pod shops, and they're blowing up the fucking indexes. And then they're betting on the indexes and doing that, making money that way as well. So it's a huge fucking bullshit conflict of interest. It's a way that they went around and made a new fucking design type bullshit to get around the Wagner rule, which prohibits banks from giving them money. So now they're just gonna, deregulate then. We'll make a fucking pod shop. It's a complete scam. This is a fucking joke. And then they'll sit there and like I said, listen, like this is exactly like Ken saying, all right, I'll think about this. All these pod shops are taking all the bank profits, and they're popping it into the same 7 fucking stocks. Well, guess what? Everyone's pumping it into these 7 stocks. What the hell is going to happen when people start to fucking sell off in these 7 stocks, when these start to go down, when they start to feel the bear market on those specific ones? They're fucked. All these people are fucked. They're all fucked. And it just takes 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys now to just go down. All of a sudden, boom, it triggers mass sell-offs, mass liquidities. That's what he's talking about. Up to $1 trillion. So these guys are sitting there talking about, could you imagine if 10 of all these hedge funds jointly take 10, 15, 20% hit on their equity, and they're all piled in the same fucking thing? So these pod shops, like I said, it's all the bank's money, all their profits are going into these fucking 7 things, blowing everything up. Also talks about, which I'll show you. I was trying to find this tab because Zero Hedge posted it the other day. It was talking about hedge funds, and how they were attacking treasury markets as well. And what they're trying to do is get them, and then when they're trying to sell or buy these bonds at these higher rates, and then sell them back to the government when they're at these lower rates down the road. What they're going to do is sell them to them at a lower rate and then make a massive profit right away. But then the government can go ahead and, like I said, they'll just use taxpayer money, and then they can go ahead and lower that interest percent on the new acquired debt. It's just stupid. None of this, what they're doing, they're literally lighting a fucking car on fire, putting as much gas on this thing, driving it off a cliff, and telling us all we're going to be okay. They're making up new little fucking pod shops. They're making up new things. Ken Griffin, like I said, even fucking Ken Griffin's talking about these things. The ripple effects. Pod shops are they're just a fucking joke. It is so dumb that if they ever do rules, Hey, we gotta limit the corruption. Dodd-Frank rules. Okay, we'll make a hedge fund. Now we're out, and then they sit there and the regulators. How is shit getting fucked up? How are they getting around the Dodd-Frank rule? Family offices. Duh. If I can figure that out as a citizen, why can't you as a regulator? Okay, how are they getting around the Wagner rule so these fucking banks aren't sitting there doing conflict of interest and making even more cash and able to put that money in hedge funds? Well, they made pods. They made fucking PodShops, aka family offices specifically designed for bank profit. Okay. But again, if these pods all start taking these hits, and I'm going to show you some else on top of this. So you have all of these pods, and this is the thing that's fucking hilarious. So they can't put it in a hedge fund, and we're going to get to this in a minute here because watch, if you look at this graph here on the next slide, I'm going to skip ahead here for a second. Hedge funds themselves are all piling in the same thing. Oh, they're all going to the 7. They're all going to the 7. Hedge funds, the pods in the fucking hedge funds, banks, everything. And eventually, so basically right now, everybody's piling into the same fucking 7 stocks. What could go wrong? How long can the 7 hold up for? You guys, this shit is gonna, like I said, they're all running to the hills, but the problem is they're all running to the same fucking hill. Well, if they're all running to the same fucking hill, if they're all sitting on the same 7 mountains, that bitch is getting crowded as fuck. What if 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 get margin called on the same hill that everybody's standing on? Is that not the MOAS that we all talked about? There you go, guys. We talked about since day one. We need to take down not just the hedge funds. We want the system, the banks, this. Good. How do you not get a short squeeze? How do you get a MOAS? You not just fuck one guy up. You not just fuck 1 or 2 hedge funds up. You fuck them all up. And how do you get them all fucked? You push them all to the same hill and drop a goddamn bomb on that fucker. They're all backing up to the same hill. All of them. At a historic level. Highest ever. They're all sitting on the same mountain. Shit's about to get real interesting. This is a fucking chess game. Everybody needs to stop looking at just the fucking play they make. Look at the long game. What happens if we make this move, they make this move? The one thing they never planned on is you holding this long. The one thing they never planned on is you still fucking holding this long. And the next thing they planned on is no matter what they do, we're still buying. None of us give a fuck. We're going to keep buying. I don't care what stock you're in. Anybody that... They put most people in a bind to where they can't sell even if they wanted them to. So the only way you'll ever even get those people to sell is even get them back to even. Well, if you get them back to even, how many now can't afford that and will get margin called? That's what I'm saying. They're sitting here playing hot potato. They're all fucking running, and they're all running from different directions, and they all landed on the same fucking hill. Now their entire asset, their entire fucking everything is banking on these 7 fucking stocks that are holding up everything. Everything. They're holding up fucking everything. This entire market is blood fucking red. If you don't sit there and look at AMC every day, oh my god, I lost 25 cents. Oh my god, we went up 30 cents. Yay, we lost 50 cents today. Who gives a fuck? The whole market's bleeding. And you know what that means is bleeding? All of their fucking collateral. All of their shit that's backing all of these things. That is why you're constantly seeing, we need more margin, we need more capital, we need more collateral, we need more transparency. Why is this? I can't keep doing this. It's like you continuously, as a little kid, it's like you're a little kid. You keep going to the feds, and I'm going to show you the feds can't keep bailing them out, as we went over before. But this next thing I'll show you in a second, this is your clear sign. Now, where the hell? Hold on. We're just flying off. So the fact that all of these fucking assholes are all now into the same pump, all of them are now into the same fucking pump. Now your pods under the firms themselves are in the same pump. What happens when it dumps? Like I said, they're all now on that hill. They're gonna try and protect that hill with all they fucking stand. They're now putting their fortress down there, but we're gonna fucking surround that fortress and we're gonna let that thing collapse on itself because they're gonna go hungry eventually. And what happens when they get hungry? The rich eat the fucking rich. And we're gonna sit on the outside. We're gonna circle that fucking castle and we're gonna watch them eat each other. This is what we needed from OS. We needed them on the same fucking hill, desperate as shit, no one there to help them, creditors drying up, the Fed's not able to bail them out, their companies drying up, their fucking assets and buildings, their deposits leaving. This is what we needed. This is what I've been preaching for 2.5 fucking years. This is what we want. Stop staring at the fucking, oh my god, AMC went down 30 cents. So did every fucking thing in the entire market. Everybody's sitting there, oh my god, fire at America because of stock price. Have you not been paying attention to the entire stock market the last fucking 1.5 years? Where have you been? Do you literally only wake up and go, what's AMC's price? If it goes up, Adam Aaron did okay, but if it goes down, that's all him. The whole fucking market's going red. They're fucking tacking everything. Liquidity's drying up. Credit's drying up. You think he's the only CEO that had to do a reverse split? You think he's the only CEO that, like I said, dude, the economy is getting fucking smashed and they're stealing and we're all, everybody is fucking hurting. And on top of that, they're fucking attacking. Did he make mistakes? Yeah. I will never, ever defend Adam Aaron saying the dude's done everything. Fuck no. The dude's done plenty wrong, and I've gone over everything he's done wrong. But you gotta get out of this little fucking microscope where you wake up and you check 4 stock prices and compare the meme stocks and go, holy fuck. Guys, we're so far into this shit. You gotta learn everything. You gotta look at, if you sit there and listen to my shit and go, I get so many people go, why don't you talk about AMC? What's this have to do with AMC? If you don't understand what the fuck the banks, the people who lend the hedge funds money, that short the stock with the money and credit that they're used, those guys are no longer able to lend your hedge funds money. And by the way, hedge funds themselves, where the fuck are my tabs? Good grief. Hedge funds themselves just took a $80 billion hit in November alone. So hedge funds themselves are losing money, losing collateral, losing value in their assets. And now their creditors are getting hit too. Perfect. The fucking cocksuckers named the federal government aren't able to bail them out. And I'm going to show you a couple signs that you know. We'll go ahead and look at these, and then we'll look at what happened in the past right after you saw these specific signs. Now, one of the things that we're seeing, zombie firms are filing for bankruptcy as feds commit to higher rates. What does that mean? What is a zombie stock? Just a quick little thing. A zombie stock or a zombie company is a firm that would be insolvent if not for consistent infusions of capital from lenders. Zombie stocks are usually kept afloat by low interest rates, or they're bailed out by the government. So basically, if the government's not bailing them out, if there's not banks over there over and over, basically there's General Motors, American Airlines, Macy's are their examples, okay? Well, basically, 10% of companies in the U.S. are considered zombie firms in 2021. So this talks about zombie stocks. So like this says, if they didn't get a constant infusion, well, these stocks usually get bailed out by the government, as we went over previous examples. The fact that the government now is basically saying, hey, sorry, we're going to pick and choose. We're going to pick and choose on which ones we can bail out. We're no longer going to bail out all these people, just people that are detrimental. We're just going to keep,
You know, the certain ones we can alive, but we're going to have to start letting some of these fuckers fail. We're refusing. The Fed says banks. They're refusing to keep weak firms alive as well. Like I said, when you start seeing this, this is when they're sitting there. Credit is drying up for everybody. Institutions as well. Companies. This is what we need. Now, these banks are going to take even more hits on these zombies. The reason that they also will continuously bail these guys out is because they hold assets in these companies that they don't want to go to zero. So they'll keep hoping that other lenders will, you know, they'll keep passing the potato to not let these go down. Because like I said, this is going to be more hits to these banks. So this is another smash that's going to keep hitting these banks. Zombie stocks going down. Assets that they're continuously backing. So this could be like a company going, or a bank. How do we don't know what the size of these are, but some of these could be, you know, hundreds and hundreds of millions. And now they're just going to take those smashes. And this is what we need. More and more and more and more bubbles popping on these fuckers, then backing into the same spot. Now let's attack those same spots. Like, I wish I owned a hedge fund and every single one of you was a part of it. And I could sit there and employ strategies on how to attack these fuckers. Because I know exactly what I would want us to do if we were a company and we were going against these fuckers right now. But we don't obviously have that ability as individuals, so I guess it doesn't matter. But let's keep going here for a second. One of the things I wanted to show you guys, because I thought this was actually pretty interesting. So now we know about the pod. You know, if you want to look at PodShops, here's a little bit more information on the PodShops. URL is in there on the bottom. Here's some more on PodShops. If you want to look at the Volkner rule, this is the Volkner rule right here. Make sure everybody can click on the links. All right, so the next thing I wanted to get into here is South Korea and North Korea and the Korean market and everything that they're doing, because it just kind of blows my mind how the s.e.c. and all these people, oh, we can't find it, it can't do it because it's not this, it's not that, you know, it's not reported to get the naked shorts, we can't stop this and that, whatever. Over in the Korean market here, they actually implemented a new computerized system to prevent illegal short selling. So they now have a way over there that prevents it. So if they have this over there, why the hell can't we say, hey Gary, you want to get your head out of your ass and just borrow their code? Because apparently it's so hard to write fucking code. So they're going to see if the system is capable of detecting and preventing illegal short selling in real time. They're getting this set up here. Like I said, why not even like 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, they say they're going to ban short selling or whatever it was, or like a month ago, whatever. Then they say they're making a special task team to stop it. And now they're already getting a system in place, a computerized system in place. They're obviously going to run it, test it. I can't come out and say today, hey, it's going to be great, it's going to stop it indefinitely. They suspended short selling right now. They're going to get this system in place. Once this system is in place, then they'll release the ban of it and everything, but they'll be able to start tracking it, who's doing it, and they'll be able to hopefully see it. So that ban will not be lifted until they get this system in place. But the fact of the matter is it should be this easy. You see what I mean? If the Korean government looks over and goes, we can ban short selling, naked short selling, just like that. Okay? We could put in a system within a month, and hopefully it works. They're going to test it out. But I'm saying, like, you see what I mean? If you put your mind towards something, you can get it done really quickly. And it's mind-blowing. It's baffling how fast they can get it actually done. If you don't ask me, if you don't believe me, look at this. The second these guys found out these rulers were going to fuck them up and they were going to get fucked up, they literally protested, and now they have a congressional hearing to push back on regulations that are going to fuck them up. They wanted something done, and they got in front of Congress within seconds. You're the regulator. You have the power. You have the ability. You're the fucking regulator. You have the ability to ban short selling, just like they're doing over here. or illegal short selling. Where the hell is this? You have the ability, SEC, to put this in fucking place. You can make your own copy of the same system if you want. But God forbid, you know, it's just a complete gong show over there. I just wanted everybody to be aware, you know, that it's actually, you know, when you see when they're realizing shit's too fucked up, and why is it happening over there? It's because other institutional banks, and they get into actually show you which banks. They came out the other day and they said there was 2 international banks that were really fucking them up. There's 2 international banks that was really fucking up their market. And it turns out it is BNP Paribas, which is always a fucking culprit, and HSBC. And we've already gone into how many crimes in these exact 2 fucking banks. It's always these 2 banks. It's always these 2 banks. But at least they're going to get investigated now for doing it. But, I mean, I'm kind of, you know, what's going to happen here? Like, what are they going to do for these guys? Are they going to, when it comes down to how much are they going to charge them? What's the fine? What's the penalty going to be? Because they're investigating. What are they going to do if they find them guilty? So I'm insanely curious to see what's going to end up happening on that end. You know, with this is that case, which is why I want to bring this case up, because it's like, you know, if we follow what they're doing, we kind of see a little timeline, we kind of see, you know, a little path, and we watch them actually. It's like they're implementing it for us on how to fix it right away. And if you can watch them do it, we can implement on it, do it better than what they did when we implement it, and there you go. But I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to end up doing with these guys, because if you read this, it was engaged in naked short selling of 40 billion won. And HSB did so so just BNP Paribas naked short sold on a 40 billion won. Oh, just fucking that USD. I don't know what that'd be in USD off the top of my head. I get, so it makes it sound way worse. It's $31 million. It's only 31 million. 40 billion won sounded way worse. It's only 31 million. So, which is still a fucking ridiculous amount of money. Like, but I mean, compared to the 40 billion won sounding, it's 31 million USD. So, but still. And then, oh, I should have looked up here. Sorry, it was total of 42 million. I should have just looked at the top. What an idiot. Fucking go over and grab the fucking rate calculator. That's a currency calculator. That's fine. All right, so, but yeah, so I'm going to be watching on this, see what they do with this, but I just wanted to make everybody aware, you know, if your regulators actually wanted to stop this and cared, they wouldn't be doing what they did with that last rule I showed you, where they said, well, we're going to accept market makers from this rule too, and anybody who needs to hedge their risk. Like, fuck U.S. market makers or regulators, dude. It's just a complete gong show. So, just when you thought it couldn't get worse for these banks, and they couldn't come up with more bubbles to create and more financial crises to create, they come up with another one. Tell me this doesn't sound... Oh my god. So it's basically 2008 all over again, but with auto loan securities. They're basically going to auto loan back securities. So what they're going to do is make tranches. They're going to go ahead and take auto loans. U.S. Bank plans to sell $2.5 billion of auto credit linked notes. If you come down here, it's the first time U.S. Bank has sold this type of security. The notes effectively allowed the issuer to transfer credit risk tied to the underlying loan asset of the car over to the new investor. You mean like in 2008? Guys, this shit's gonna be crazy, dude. This shit's gonna be crazy. They're transferring all of their risk, and guess what's happening at the same time? Ready? Americans struggle to afford car payments. The highest percentage of borrowers are at least 60 days late in their car payment is at an all-time record high. So basically everybody's defaulting. And as everybody's having these defaults on their car payments, U.S. banks going, do you guys want to buy $2.5 billion of risk that's attached to defaulting credit? Defaulting auto loans? Because if you do, we'll give you good interest. And then when our fucking notes and everything collapse because all these fucking people default on their auto loans, that little amount of interest we paid you is not worth anything because you lost everything. Dude. They're coming up with new ways hey, we need to come up with this new instrument to transfer more risk. And that's what I told you guys. It's not about covering the short position. A lot of people sit there, God, I got to cover the short position. I got to cover this fucking short position. No, you can cover the risk attached to the short position. And most people do that through derivatives. And how do they do that? They do through derivatives with banks. So when you take away that ability to hedge the risk of the short position, you now actually have to go into the stock market and hedge it with actual shares or options and puts. But the fact that they're literally trying to do this all over again, but with auto loans, which are already defaulting faster than ever. This is going to be an explosion. And if they don't sell this to investors, well, who the fuck is going to buy this? Who is going to buy this? This is like the riskiest. This instrument right here has the most risk attached to it than any instrument out there right now. It was just created, and it's probably an ultra risk security. Like all-time ultra risk security. Chances are the fucking auto loans behind it are going to default. There's a very, very good chance they're going to default. So what is the rate that they're giving these out at? What is the rate that is attached to these notes? That's what I want to know. It's got to be fucking astronomical. And then who is stupid enough to say, you know what? I'm going to buy these fucking auto-backed securities. They're auto-backed securities is what they're. I'm going to buy auto-backed securities when they're on an all-time default. In other words, these guys are having bubbles popping and they're trying to get rid of risk attached to it by selling it off and paying interest before the margins fuck them up. They're all struggling, you guys. They're all taking hits and their credits are drying. You want to know how I know? Right here. You remember seeing this in 2008? Remember Citibank did this in 2008? Remember a whole bunch of other companies did this in 2008? New home equity lines of credit at Wells Fargo are now currently unavailable. Due to market conditions, we are temporarily suspending new applications for home equity lines of credit. Well, in 2008, here's one article in 2008. Okay, so they're freezing them out, and new lines are they're done. You can't open them up. Citibank is freezing home equity lines of credit. A first-hand account. 2008. Citibank actually ended up like I said, people that had current balances, they froze them. So they can no longer go in there and use that line of credit that was backed. It just their account balance went to zero. That was back then. I mean, I don't currently have Wells Fargo or this. I'm trying to find out if they have them completely frozen as well, but they're no longer taking applications for them. It's like repeating over and over. Here's a sign from this. Here's a sign from this. This happened back in the day. This happened before. This happened before. And guess what? Oh, I like that. A little Bed Bath & Beyond bat. And I might have to click on that little table. There's no. This kid. But like I said, you guys got to look back at signs that, hey, these all happened right before this crash and this crash and this crash and this bubble burst and this bubble bursted. Well, these are the signs all these bubbles are bursting. You already seen them before. They all happened right before.
And the fact, like I said, you're running into auto credit link notes is fucking mind blowing. Who would buy these? You would have to give me like a 50% rate, and I'd throw something in there to take a risk. I mean, all right, maybe. But they're not giving out 50% rates. There's no way in fuck. I might even need 100%. With how much risk is attached to these, you're giving out 2.5 billion of, like I said, what the hell? Blows my mind. What could go wrong? Let's create more bubbles. Now, speaking of Wells Fargo, so they're cutting off home lines of equity, or equity lines of credit. Wells Fargo warns of severance costs, and it's going to cost them $1 billion in Q4, and they're going to take a hit out of $1 billion. So when they were doing their restructuring their restructuring thing, they started firing management. One of the things people don't understand is Wells Fargo and these huge banks, they're douchebags. They give their employees huge severance packages, like unbelievable, because they think nothing can go wrong. They're hiring the best of the best, so they got to entice these guys, so it's always just higher and higher. Well, their severances are like fucking ridiculous. Well, it's going to cost them $1 billion just from firing all those fucking people. Sucks to suck. Sucks to fucking suck. So, one of the things that's funny is if you look at this, so they're paying $1 billion, right? Well, listen to this. When they go before the committee here, hey, gorgeous. When they go before the committee here, what are they going to talk about? One of the things it says they're going to talk about is workers' pay and rights. Okay, if this thing's going to keep doing that. It wants to... Tell me on this one. Well, it wants to talk... Oh, probably won't show me this. It wants to talk... One of the things they want to talk about and come in, they want to bitch in front of Congress is workers' rights and pays, because they don't want to sit there and have to pay these fucking people all this severance money. Fuck off. I wish this would stop doing this. I'm not going to subscribe to your garbage shit. Fucking paywalls, bro. Like, ain't no one paying for your trash. There we go. Yeah, look, talks about workers' pay and rights, mortgages, financial stability. This is what they're all going to talk about and whine about. They want to talk about climate change. Well, you guys want to fucking hear it. Before I even keep going, you got to see this. You got to see this. This cracks me up. I don't even know if I doubt I shared it. I think I just asked the bitch how many. Hold on, let me see her. Give me 1 second. It's worth the wait. Here she is. So this idiot, Hillary, she literally comes out and talks about that climate change is killing people. And they're starting to record the deaths that are related to climate. What? It's just real life? Listen to this chick.
Seeing and beginning to pay attention and to count and record the deaths that are related to climate, and by far the biggest killer is extreme heat. I mean, even in Europe last summer, which has the ability to count and figure out what happened, they recorded 61,000 deaths because of the heat in Europe.
So, you're like, you guys, we need that money. We need more money, more donations. Fucking climate change is out here killing people. This is real. And look at their number one of the things they're talking about over here in this congressional meeting. They're talking about how they need money and shit for climate change. Okay, if this thing does a paywall thing one more time, I'm just exiting this stupid thing. Union leader, you're trash. No one wants to pay your garbage crap. Climate change.
Look at all the stuff they're talking about. It's all the stuff they're getting fucked on, and everybody's waking up. Nobody believes any of this shit. Nobody does. Nobody believes the lie they're telling anymore, and that's the problem. Everybody's waking up, and everybody's realizing what's going on. And the second that happens, guess what? They're all backed on the same fucking hill. So when everybody figures it out and everybody starts asking questions, they're all cornered on the same fucking hill. That is how you get your MOAS. Your MOAS is finally setting up stage. And it's on the same fucking 7 hills. Your MOAS, everything, all of their equity, all of their collateral, everything is banking on these 7 fucking stocks. All the hedge funders, everybody, banks, they're all jumping in. It's all the 7. They're holding up the whole world. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, Meta. It's fucking stupid. It's really fucking stupid. Would I go to a protest? I mean, dude, I would go to a protest if it was done right. I mean, the last one was done when the s.e.c. was closed. And nobody knew what they were talking about. But I mean, I just feel like you just watch it burn. We got them all backed on a hill right now. Why even fucking bother at this point? Like I said, watch them eat each other. They're all on the same hill. We have them backed into the same fucking corner. Let the weight of themselves crush the hill. You know what I mean? Now, what was this one? Oh, this is a zombie stock. So now let's keep going here because I still have quite a bit of stuff to go into. So one of the next thing here I wanted to get into. I mean, this is mind-blowing. This is absolutely fucking mind-blowing. Because think how many banks there are in other countries. Think of how many banks there are in other countries. And how much this total is actually going to get to. Swiss private bank. So this bank over here, they got charged. They got caught. They admitted everything. They found it. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. So they admitted today that they concealed and conspired to hide $5.6 billion from the IRS, from individual investors. So basically, rich people in the United States sent this one bank in their own accounts just so they could hide it from the IRS so nobody knew it was over there. $5 billion. $5.6 billion. People sit there and go, well, where would they get this money from MOAS? Well, they had $5.6 billion in one bank. Just a certain amount of individual investors. So as we went over, I showed you the biggest tax haven is Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. They have more money, more assets, more value goes through Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. Think about this. Than any place in the world. Now let me ask you a question. If I told you there was a place the most money in the world basically went through this place, would you not expect that place to have lavishing buildings, be nice as fuck? I mean, one of the nicest areas you could ever see. Right? You would think, right? It's probably be fucking beautiful. Well, there it is. This place has just, it's just like this little small fucking touristy town. It's just ridiculous, dude. Murphy, please. You just went out with mommy. He's okay. He's just whining. But But yeah, so if you had one fucking bank, and of course they're going to pay a $122.9 million fine. Ooh. So you hid $5.6 billion and paid a $122 million fine? This shit's in fucking insane, dude. But like we were saying, these tax havens, these offshore tax havens are so re-fucking tarded. Offshore tax evasion. Now, I don't know why Moody downgrades China from stable to negative. They also downgraded the United States from stable to negative. You've seen the collapses everywhere going on. Should it not alarm people that the two biggest economies in the world just got downgraded from stable to negative? If the two biggest economies in the world are at negative, what the hell is everybody else doing? So if the two biggest economies in the world are losing, are down, what the hell is going on? Why is it nobody worrying about this stuff? Shit, I mean, it's just crazy to me. JP Morgan. And this is what I was telling everyone. They're going to go ahead and they're going to they'll crash everything. What they'll end up trying to do is they'll try and crash everything. They'll die on those 7 hills. They'll die on their hill there. And when they die on the hill, we will win. Now, they're going to die on the hill. They'll try and crash everything. And in return, they're going to pray to God that they can get in their CBDCs or what they want to call them, these tokens. JP criminal organization Morgan debuts international bank transactions. Yay! So they were just doing them with BlackRock. They're doing $1 billion a day in transaction. Now they're able to do it all over. Yay! We're so excited. So now the corruption's just going to keep getting worse with their tokenizations. They did make CBDCs. I want everyone to understand this is a CBDC. This is called a wholesale CBDC. It is only for institutional investors. It is not for retail's consumption or anything like that. This is a CBDC rebranded as a token. That's it. Now, one of the things that it's happening faster than I thought. I thought, like I said, this was going to be the next thing. I showed you with BlackRock. Well, before we even get to that, with JP Morgan short position in gold. I wonder how that's doing right now, seeing as all gold's just jumping up like crazy. So right now you got the World Bank, BIS, they're collaborating on uses of tokenization. So now you got the World Bank. The World Bank is now going to get into tokenization. Perfect. Look who they're doing it with. Swiss central banks. Where's all the corruption keep coming from? Oh. So now you're going to have, basically, here they go. Collaboration that touches on CBDCs. Basically, they're going to be CBDCs and tokenized. They're going to be the same exact fucking thing. They're going to just do one, and they'll have the bad rep, and then they'll be doing all their nefarious act in these tokenizations. Because everybody will be focusing on their CBDCs. But yeah, now we got the international, or the World Bank is now taking this on. Perfect. So fucking stupid, dude. Moving over that. Okay. I want to teach people something here quick, because a lot of people, when they talk about inflation and things like that and prices, I don't think people truly understand a little bit about the inflation and things like this. So a lot of people, when they see something like this, inflation fell to its lowest level since March, and a lot of people will sit there and they see something like that and they go, okay, well, if inflation went down, that means prices go down with it. That's not true at all. Prices don't go down. When inflation comes down and the price moves up from inflation, that price is permanent. That price movement is permanent. It doesn't go up and down and fluctuate with inflation. Now, if you look at the consumer price index, this basically shows you everything, cost of everything for everybody. When they say inflation, it comes to no matter what every year, because all the factors that lead to inflation, and one of the things we keep on doing is increasing money supply. We can't stop fucking printing. So, inflation... Hold on 2 seconds. Buddy. I can't eat my shoe, honey. He always grabs like something crazy. Go see mommy, buddy. Where's mommy? So inflation, when you do this, it's not like when you see this and he goes, oh, inflation today, prices are going to go down. No, they're still going to go up. They're just going to go up at a slower rate. Because until you start getting deflationary periods, you're not going to see prices themselves actually go down. So whenever they sit there and say, oh, we beat inflation, when you look at this chart, they say it when it goes down for 1 second or if it levels out, but the prices don't go down with it. They're permanent. They continue to rise. They stay with each time. So when they talk about inflation, and the reason I'm bringing this up is a couple of days ago, Biden comes out and he goes, we got inflation under control, but these companies are price gouging everybody, and that's why the prices are higher. That's why the prices have stayed. It's because the companies now are price gouging people. They're not price gouging people. Yeah, they are. Some of them are. Of course they are. They're fucking setting the market. They're fucking pieces of shit. But they're not doing it to the point that he makes you believe that they are. The prices have gone up through inflation, and they're there to stay because of everything else they have done in the background and through monetary policies, printing. The fact, like I said, the fact that we're not even producing anymore at this point. America at this point, we're pretty much not even producing anything. So at this point, until demand slows way down, you need a hard recession, you need a depression, which leads into deflation of prices. So a lot of people sit there and go, man, if inflation's going down, even if it goes down to 1%, 0%, until it gets to negative, prices will not drop. It's just the rate that they will keep going up at will go low. It's just lower and lower and lower, depending on the level. It's not transitory, is what I'm trying to get at. Because a lot of people kept on asking me about this question. They're like, well, then why is the candy bar still $3.20 at a gas station? I'm like, because inflation going up, or just because it went down doesn't mean they're going to drop the prices with inflation. It just, like I said, that's a huge misconception that it's transitory. If you look in the United States, I showed you the map here. There's only been 4 times, throughout the entire United States that you actually had the deflationary period where the prices actually came down. And that involves with depression because the demand is not there. So the supply keeps rising and rising and rising. The only way to sell it off is to create demand. Well, you have to lower the prices during depression, during these recessions and these harder times, because nobody can afford these, baby, please, at these prices. So I just wanted to clear that up. I think it said in the United States in the last, here you go. In the past 60 years, the United States actually experienced deflation only 2 times, in 2009 and in 2015. So unless it's below 0 or in the negatives, baby, please, in the negatives, your price themselves will not drop with inflation. Now, speaking of politicians who, like I said, but the reason I brought that up is they want to keep on saying, it's not me, it's not our policies, it's not this, it's not that. It's these companies and their price gouging. But no, it is all of the above. It is them. It is their monetary policies. It's everything they've done. It is the printing. It is increasing the money supply. So one of the things I thought that was kind of funny, this is a crime, first of all. Gold bars found in Senator Bob Menendez's home was linked to a 2013 robbery. That's a crime. You can't have stolen property. What are you doing? So you got bribed with stolen property? So you took 2 crimes? Is anything going to happen to this man? We like to point out corruption, but last I checked, it's illegal to own stolen goods. Correct?
Now,
we're going to get a couple more things, and then we'll finish it up here. But a lot of people are finally waking up to the death spiral that I've been talking about for 8-9 months now. And how the government is enslaving us. And there's a lot of people think that they can hide this forever. They can do all this stuff forever, but they're not going to be able to, because next year when those 7.6 trillion in bonds they mature, they need to be renewed, the interest rate's going to jump over 2 trillion. It'll be over 2.1 trillion. You're going to spend almost $1 trillion more than you do on Social Security. That is fucking insanity. It's not going to be able to work. You cannot do that, because what's going to happen next year is you will be having, right now we currently soak up 40% of income tax. Next year it will be about 88% of income taxes once they renew those bonds. 88% of income tax will just go straight to fucking interest on bonds. Think of how insane that is. That is insanity. Even Elon Musk is like, dude, this is getting fucking ridiculous. What if I called it forever? The debt spiral. You ever heard of a debt spiral? It's time you did. People are starting to wake up. This is not sustainable. I know they want you to believe it. I know it seems like all hope is lost. They can't keep doing this. The Fed, I already showed you, are losing money. Their unrealized losses are at 1.5 trillion. They can't do QE. Why? Because they own most of their number one security is mortgage-backed securities. Well, guess what? Nobody can sell houses. They bought them all at an all-time high. Now they can't take losses on those houses. So until people can afford to buy those houses, they can't do shit. Well, the only way they're going to be able to do that is lower rates. Well, you can't lower rates or inflation's going to jump up drastically as fuck again. So what are you going to do? You have all of these people running to these treasury bonds. Why? Because the interest rate's going to be insane. I told you next year you will see 7% in these fucking in these money market funds. And at that point, why would you ever stay in a bank at 0.2? They already said over 1.3 trillion to 1.2 trillion will leave the banking sector again next year. This, like I said, this road we're on, this car is on fire, and they're pouring gasoline on, and they're letting bankers come up with brand new things like this to pour just one more tank on there just to see if they can. It will collapse on these fucking clowns. It will. But when it does, we need to remember that these guys had 5.6 billion in one bank, and that was just in a very small Swiss bank. How many trillions do they have hidden offshore? How much of that money that went to Ukraine was laundering? Now let me ask you this. Ukraine said they will run out of all the 150 billion in aid that the United States sent them. What? He wants more money because by the end of the year, Ukraine will have used all 150 billion on the war. Are you kidding me? Do any of you believe all 150 billion has went to that war? We're not going to stop spending. Our government won't stop borrowing. And they're borrowing at a rate with an uncapped fucking treasury market. They are no longer capped on the debt ceiling. That alone was treason. Because we will be paying for this for the rest of our lives. Your kids will be paying for this for the rest of their lives. Or until this shit crashes. And here you go, 7.6, this was yesterday, Wales, 7.6 trillion of U.S. government debt will mature in the next year. And another, what was it, 1.8 trillion or something more like that after. So they're looking at like 12 trillion in the next 3 years. Good luck. Now, one of the things we like to do is I like to expose corruption in a lot of places that a lot of us aren't looking at. I like to show you guys ways they steal billions from you, pollute your land, fuck up everything for people, just make life harder for us.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't really look into is the oil field and the oil industry.
Now, I don't give a fuck about the companies. I'm not going to get anything like that. But what they do is fucked up. And they're just pieces of shit. So what they're supposed to do is after they do a well site, they're supposed to clean up the fucking land around it. Clean up the well, seal it off, make sure everything's like they were never there. Do they? Fuck no. And if they ever don't want to, they don't anyways. But if they ever say, hey, you have to do it, and it'll be like, they'll just be like, all right, well, what I'm going to do is just bankrupt this little small oil company. So they'll have a big oil company, they'll have subsidiaries in it. So instead of them going, hey, I'm going to clean up this shit, they're going to be like, hey, you have to clean this up. It's going to cost you like $2 billion. It'll cost you $700 million to clean this up. Nah, fuck that. I'm going to just bankrupt my fucking little company here. And then I'm going to open up a new subsidiary. And I'm going to let the next person, whoever buys the land, they're going to have to deal with it. And guess what that does? That makes it so me and you can never own that land because it's tainted by oil. It's fucked up. It needs to be cleaned before we can buy that property. Well, who's going to have to clean that? Us or the government?
Well,
If you guys look at this, it's now up to $17 billion. $17.7 billion. Now, I want you guys to understand how bad of a problem this is. There is 89,350 wells. So there's about 89,000 wells out there that they just said, fuck you, I'm not going to pick up. Who gives a shit? Are you kidding me? 90,000 wells almost. And they just said, sorry, we're not going to pick that. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and fuck that company up. We're just going to close it down. This is a fucking gong show. And I want to show you how big of a problem this was. Because here's the same exact article, but in 2008. And it got worse. So, if you read this, it talks about well cleanup and all this stuff. Well, it talks about how oil has been paying lobbyists to make laws so they don't have to. Well, back in the day in 2008, it was at $6 billion in wells that we need to pick up and clean. We're up to 17.7 billion. So they just basically added 10 billion since then in wells. You have, again, 90,000 oil wells that they're just like, fuck them. What money does, my friends? What money will let you get away with? These oil companies should have already... So, in other words, this should have been an expense on these oil companies. How are their prices so much? How are profits so high? How do they never miss revenue on top of it? Because they stick an extra $17 billion that should have been expenses onto you. Fucking joke. Now, when it comes to these houses, pending sales, this came out a couple days ago, pending home sales dropped to a record low, even worse than during the financial crisis. Like I said, this is going to get worse and worse and worse, and it is in such a stalemate, it has nowhere to go. The fact that 40% of homes don't even have a fucking mortgage on them at all means 40% of homes in the entire market are off listing and will not be coming on. So that means your supply's already plummeted. And then they showed you over 65% of home loans. Current loans were under 3%, which means they're not going to refinance. They're not going anywhere. And on top of that, you have all these other people defaulting. So your supply right now Literally. And then on top of that, you had all those BlackRock, you had, the feds, like I showed you, buying up mortgage-backed securities to bail out the banks. So you have so basically your supply is just people right now that are going to default on their loan. And that's it. So when someone defaults, that will be your supply, which means your demand's still going to be there. There's still people out there that are going to, that want houses, but your supply is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be so expensive on top of that. So you're already limiting how many people can invest because you already have an average we just showed you is at $2,986 a month for a new home. Who the fuck has that? Oh, on top of that, it's $700 plus for a car loan, which I already showed you. People are already defaulting on that like crazy. It's the highest in the history of the United States. So now you're like, let's just issue fucking debt that's going to default. They're literally issuing debt that will 100% default. Or already has. This is the debt that they're going to be giving out on these loans. These auto credit loans, they're going to be putting the ones that are 60 days late. That's what they'll attach to them. So they're going to give you a loan that, like I said, has a 90% chance of defaulting. It's just mind fucking blowing. But right now, the other thing you got, so you have no one's able to sell, no one's able to buy, no one's able to move. Well, on the other end, this has inflation adjusted for it. U.S. delinquencies adjusted for inflation. We have now hit the exact level in 2008. And what's the difference? At this point in 2008, it started crashing. So now prices started to come down. But in 2023, prices are stabilized right where we crashed. And they're here to stay. Your housing market is fucked. It's as bad as it was delinquencies as it was in 2008 during the great financial crisis. And they're not even letting anyone know it's a big deal. It was the craziest thing in the world back then. But right now, it's not even, they don't give a fuck. They don't even talk about it. Everybody's defaulting and nobody can buy these. So now these banks are getting fucked on all these loans. Sweet.
Who's the next roaring kitty?
I don't know, man, but if you find out, let me know. Because I want to know what else to get into. You know what I mean? But I only got a couple more things here. But you guys, like I said, the housing market's fucking splacked. And they're stuck. They're backed on a hill in every single part of the market now. In every aspect, in every financial sector. Oh, man. As soon as these 7 go down, boom. Boom. So look at that. The most in history. They're all crowded in these 7 stocks. Good luck. The last 2 things I wanted to show you guys. For AMC crowd, as you know, streaming services thought they were going to get us and we're going to get fucked. But in the end of the day, streaming services now, like Disney, is also releasing a whole bunch of films that they had previously released. So in 2024, I can't remember what they're releasing a whole bunch of Pixar movies. So they're desperate to get content out. These guys knew they were taking hits from the strike, and here's their consequences. So now they're going to need to start bundling together. They're going to need to partner together just to stay alive. Streaming services, people are starting to figure out, A, on top of it, you're not gonna have any content for quite a long time. B, you guys just keep on raising prices every other day. So why even, you're just gonna pick your select ones at this point. Or they're gonna all end up being in one giant bundle anyway, soon, within a year or two. You're already seeing all these. They already showed you Disney's numbers. Jesus, they were just burning cash through theirs. But whenever you see these guys partnering, you know it's getting bad. And who the fuck has Apple TV? I mean, for real, who has Apple TV? The only streaming service I have is Peacock, and that's got all the goods. Like, that's all you need. Get Peacock, dude. You got Office, Parks and Rec. You got WWE. There's all the goods there. You don't need another service. Fuck them all. You only need one or two, and fuck them all. But people are figuring that out. But one of the things, the last thing I wanted to get into, because this is actually hilarious. When these guys were going to start getting exposed, I told you they're going to start finger pointing at the others. This George Santos idiot. So he's calling out another member of Congress, which they all do, which he's not wrong. It's just hilarious because they all do it. Now they're starting to finger point. Like, all right, well, you did this. He goes, I'm going to be filing a complaint with the Office of Congressional Ethics against this Nicole, whatever. I don't even say her last name. I don't care who she is. This corrupt woman, this criminal senator. No way. Criminal senator. No way. Fucking doing illegal trading shit. No way. Crazy. But she's doing questionable trading in committees that she works on, which, you know, we show Wales and a couple other accounts. God, I have another account on here. Exposed. Here you go. This guy exposes a ton. This man exposes a ton of political insider shit, committees they're working on. See, as we go right here, this is mainly what this account does. I follow this account because it's got great information. See, I can go down and it will be nothing but this politician did this corrupt trade. This politician did this corrupt trade. These guys all did this corrupt trades. We've got several congressmen making suspicious trades. That's all this guy does every day. So, if you ever want to know what Congress is into, you know, here's another place to look. But everybody's, you know, it's just hilarious that they're sitting there pointing at each other, and that's what you want. You want these guys sitting there telling on each other for shit they all do, because then eventually there's going to be a rule on it, because every one or two of these politicians going to say, all right, now that people know about it, I can get votes by pretending I'm on that side, or I can get votes by making this rule or law, and now they'll love me forever, and I'll get votes, and I could be a career politician, because that's all their job is. I need to stay a career politician so I can make millions and millions and millions every year, because there's no other way I'll do it. All right. Does anyone have... Max is all right, man. Like, Max was good for, like... all right, let me ask you this. On HBO Max, after you watch, like... Let me think what's on there. You got Big Bang Theory. You can only watch that so many times. You got Entourage, which is a classic. You can never get sick of Entourage. But then after that, man, like, what's really on there that you're like, God, I got to stick around for HBO Max? You know what I mean? When I look at their movie releases, HBO Max, and it's like their last 12 releases were trash. They're all garbage. They're all like, hey, we got the last of the stuff that was in theater. No, I'm good on that. You know, I wish I could send you something. I can't. But guys, everything is collapsing. We needed them to back into a corner, and they've chosen their corner. Their corner that they have chosen to back into is the Magnificent Seven. And as soon as this starts going down, we will win. Because everyone, when Ken Griffin's even crying about it, oh my God, it's these PodShops. You guys, if you didn't watch this video in the beginning to learn what a PodShop is, please watch the very beginning of this. These guys, it's a hedge fund within a hedge fund, which is only their best people. And they sit there and they'll take risk, higher risk, because they can't get fired from this little special group, because then they lose their special rewards and their special this. And the people that they do, their clients are bankers, because there's a rule that prohibited banks from using their own money to go into hedge funds and then make money on it, because obviously conflict of interest. So they ended up making the Voltner rule, and then what they did is they made these subs, and now banks take all their profits and they give it to these hedge funds, but instead of giving it to the hedge funds, they give it to the pod shop within the hedge fund. So it's a way to get around it, but it's super risky, because now you have all these banks' profits, which is a systematic risk. Because if the banks suddenly lose all their profits, and they don't have deposits on hand, now what? So even Ken Griffin's like, hey, this is a little sector. Everybody's popping into the same thing. If everybody pops in and a couple people sell off, what happens to everybody else? You could see a ripple effect. And here it is. They're all fucking in the same exact play. So TikTok, motherfuckers. TikTok. Does anybody have any questions at all? Crazy? You said it perfectly, my friend. You said it perfectly. I'm glad. I love it when I see, like I said, I'm here to just teach you everything that's going on in the market, in the play. As long as AMC can sit here, generate cash, get through these hard times, get to next year when all of these, like I said, great fucking movies suddenly come out. Even more content's getting added by the day. 2024, movie selection and the amount of movies will not be the issue. A writer's strike will not be there. An actor's strike will not be there. You will have alcohol, you will have candy, which is bigger margins. And that is what you want. You want your company making the most margins on its, especially the way it generates profit, which is food. You DM me on the Rose Izzo information. You know about this chick? Wired, while you're in here, what was her lawsuit on? Because I heard it was like a $5 billion lawsuit or some fucking insane. It was a class action lawsuit on what? This girl, if you haven't heard, this idiot who continuously sues, who was running for Congress, so you know she's corrupt. This is the idiot who keeps suing AMC. She's suing AMC again, if you didn't hear. So here's this idiot who's now again suing AMC. So, Wired, what's the news on this? I just know she's suing it. I haven't opened the law. I haven't actually looked into it enough to care. Because I'm not trying to give it too much attention. Because it's like, maybe if we stop watching them, they'll just go the fuck away. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. Just reading everything right now. What am I going to get Murphy for Christmas? Probably a couple toys. It's pretty funny because, we'll wrap them up and he loves to rip the paper and shred the paper up. So it actually looks like he's actually opening the presents. He loves toys too. He goes nuts. We'll get him some treats. So he's going to have a little puppy stocking for sure. We'll put it right over the little fireplace over there. Who the hell gets the fine money? Just thinking about it. Are you talking about, fine money from which organization? Each regulatory body does different things with it. Some of it goes back to investor. Some of it goes to the Treasury. With the s.e.c. So it depends on which one you're doing, which regulator. But doesn't go where it should, that's for sure. She seems to have Russian sympathy. Oh, no. All right, here. She's an idiot. She's an idiot regardless, dude. She's literally retarded. I'm not even gonna... Oh, now here comes all the people. Oh, my God, you said the R word. I know. Calm down. We'll be okay. But does anyone have any questions at all, my friends? If not, I think I'm going to head out here. I feel like we learned quite a bit of stuff. We learned about PodShops, base 3 endgame capital requirement rule. That's coming for banks over $100 billion in assets. This is what they are trying to fight. The CEOs are being crybabies of all these banks, and they're trying to protest regulations. Once again, if you want to read about the endgame requirements, here they are for the link. It talked about clearinghouses are going to raise their collateral requirements and how this could actually start to spiral margins. So here's another bubble that could pop. There's a lot of bubbles that could be bursting right now. Also talked about PodShops. Faulkner rule. We went into South Korea and how they have now created a computerized system. We're going to go ahead and make sure that on the show that we watch the system and see how it does. So we'll keep up to date on this system. What else we go over? Oh, we went over the new 2.5 billion auto loan. So basically, these are auto-backed securities. So instead of mortgage-backed securities, they're doing it with auto-backed securities. Why auto loans are at an all-time high during defaults. What else do we talk about? They're freezing home equity line of credits. They did this also in 2008. So expect, like I said, there's bubbles, crashes everywhere. Wells Fargo has now completely cut them off. They had to pay $1 billion in severances on all of the employees that they have fired so far, and there are more layoffs to come. We found $5.6 billion in a Swiss bank, and it's a small-time bank. This was from rich people trying to avoid the IRS, so U.S. citizens. So U.S. citizens were hiding $5.6 billion in one of the smallest banks over there. So I can't imagine the amount that's in the rest of them. Alrighty, JP Morgan has their CBDC. It's gone international. It's no longer just being traded by BlackRock. What else do we go over? The World Bank is now actually going to adapt tokenization. And now that the World Bank is doing it, CBDCs will be everywhere. So they will be everywhere. They will just be called, instead of wholesale CBDCs, they will be tokenized securities. Zombie firms are filing for a bankruptcy. Once again, these are companies that the feds usually have to infuse cash. They need to bail out constantly, or they need new lenders to continuously keep at operations in hope of coming back, like United Airlines or General Motors. And what that shows you is the feds are no longer willing to bail out just anybody. So they're actually having to pick and choose who they're going to bail out. Hedge funds, PodShops, banks, they're all running to the same hill. As you guys can see, they all have crowded the magnificent seven stocks, which are propping up the entire market and all of the index. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, and Meta. Short sellers also took an $80 billion hit in November. The whole market is blood red. Stop looking just at AMC. Look at your whole picture. Look at your whole market. We learned about inflation. It's not transitory. It's permanent. As you can see, every time they talk about inflation went down, people seem to think that that means that the price went down with inflation. That does not mean the price goes down when inflation goes down. The price is permanent. Until you see deflation, the price will continuously rise and stay. All inflation means is the rate that it advances at is slowing, going up at a slower rate the next year or a higher rate. Or, like I said, we got to stop with our money supply. We got to stop raising it every fucking... They got to stop printing. We've only had deflation twice in the last 60 years in the United States. During the Great Recession in 2015 and 2009. So when people say why is prices still the same when inflation goes down, because inflation is permanent until you see deflation. We have another criminal senator who has gold in his house, which is illegal to have stolen property. But this senator has stolen property in his home, and he was bribed with this gold. So hopefully this guy goes to prison. Once again, Senator Bob Menendez is a criminal. We also learned the rest of the world is waking up to the debt spiral that I have been trying to show you guys for the last year. Even Elon. They cannot keep going at the rate they're going. Next year, 80% of income tax will go to interest payments. You can't do that. The United States cannot operate at a... They're going to be operating at a massive loss. You cannot do that. Or you're going to have to massively raise taxes, and you can't do that. The United States is in a bad place right now. And when these 7.6 trillion renew next year, we're in a really bad place. We also went over wells, oil, how the oil companies have 90,000 wells that they haven't picked up the oil from. They didn't clean up. They now have subsidiary companies, and they'll drill it with those sub companies, and they will file for bankruptcy and leave the land for us to fucking clean. It is up to $17.7 billion from $6 billion worth in 2008. That is insane. So this should be losses on these guys, but instead it's pure profits for them. Pure profits for them. They got to save $17 billion in expenses that we will pay if you want to buy the land. This is less land available for retail to purchase. On top of us as taxpayers having to pay to clean this shit. You're talking $200,000 fucking a well. $200,000 a well. Imagine if you were like, hey, you want to buy this land? You only need $200,000 to clean it, and then $200,000 to own it. Okay. Sales are at an all-time low for houses. We're now lower than we were in the financial crisis, and at the same time, pending sales are lower than they were during the financial crisis, and delinquencies in home mortgages is at the same level as that with inflation adjusted. So we're at the same exact default levels, and nobody's buying. And they're not talking about there being a home crisis or a mortgage crisis at all. You don't see it on the news, really. Like the housing market's in a lot of trouble. And that's it. Alrighty, guys. I think I'm going to head out. We went over a little recap, but thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. And have a good day.